Actually going to keep this one a little short because I want everybody to eat, drink, and be merry. It's first Friday. So like I said, we run a lot of meetups, and normally they look like this, more like hands-on workshops. So everybody's computer is out, we're teaching you how to code. If you come to our meetups, you've seen this before. And if you look at the screens on those people's laptops, they look like this. You know, our motto is always code on the screen. And so when we started this, it was code, content, community. We really wanted to change the way that the blockchain space looked, and give back to our community as we learn things. We wanted to teach our community things. But I realized that a lot of people are here because of this.
What's going on?
But tonight I kind of wanted to talk about we've got a lot of requests for talks about the non-financial applications of blockchain.
Woo!
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And so I really wanted to talk about just a couple of things in the blockchain space that that really drew my attention in 2017. Some tangible products. So nothing with no hype. These are things that you can actually work on. These are things that you can use. These are things that are actually that have users right now. So to do that, I got to go back. So got to start with the history of the web, right? So Web 1.0 was all static sites and it was commerce, and Web 2.0 was all about people. So it was all about social media. It was Facebook, it was YouTube, it was LinkedIn, it was blogging, and these virtual communities became the face of the web as we know it. But there was a problem. And soon enough, people figured out that problem was that the people using the system were actually the product. So this was I've heard the saying before that when, if a service is free, then you're the product. This is where it came from. This is a post on Metafilter back in 2010. And so as people realized this, they saw these economies popping up. So this is like just kind of an overview of all the different companies that have popped up to basically track you, to put ads, to basically draw value out of the system. These huge economies sprung up around advertising, compiling, and analyzing user data. And it was companies like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter that were taking our time and our energy and our creativity and monetizing that and turning it into profits for their shareholders, but not really giving it back to the people who created that content. So this is actually a graph from this app called Ghostery. It's like a Chrome or a Firefox plugin, and it shows like when you go to a website, these are all the services that your data is sent to when you start surfing the web. So there's trackers out here, there's different publishers, there's advertising, there's analytics companies, and that was the problem. So now we're going to talk about what the solution is. So in my opinion, Web 2.0 plus blockchain is the solution. I'm going to talk about how that is. And Steemit is one of these examples of a platform that's already out there. It's got tons of users. There's a lot of people in this room who know about this. And I want to give a shout out to Fode and Debray because they turned me on to this.
Yeah.
So Steemit allows us to kind of flip that model that has been created by all those other companies, and allows us to monetize this without any kind of middleman and capture all the value for all the creative stuff that we're doing. So a little bit about Steemit. Steemit is the fastest growing social news site. They're second in traffic to only Reddit, and they're bigger than Slashdot, Hacker News, and Dig. And the Steemit blockchain, which does more transactions than Bitcoin or Ethereum, is like the real key underpinning to all this. I'm going to talk about how in just a minute. So the true innovation here is that people aren't paying, on this platform, people aren't paying to read content or subject it to advertising or tracked all around the internet. The concept is to reward people subjectively for their contribution to this community. And this is this is Steemit. So this is what the Steemit blockchain looks like. On the Steemit blockchain, as opposed to say Bitcoin or Ethereum or a blockchain you may be used to, the transactions are all text. So they can be Markdown, they can be HTML, they're going to be things that the application built on top of the blockchain can turn into, say, blog posts or video sites or all the Web 2.0 stuff that we're used to. So actually this, that first post there is what it looks like on the blockchain. And the application built on top of it turned it into this. So you can see this one kind of looks like a little like Medium. And this is on Steemit. This is just, Steemit is one view of the Steem blockchain. And there are competing apps. So because it's a blockchain and this information is all public, the competing apps have access to the same exact information. So this is that same site on busy.org. And there's other applications for this. So there are, because this is a social blockchain, there's applications like D2, which I'm pretty sure I'm on right now. Which is like a blockchain version of YouTube.
Okay.
There's utopian.io, which is like which adds kind of a blockchain social layer to social media. Again, I gotta give a shout out to Fode and Debray for this one. They turn me on all these sites. And this is a photo of Utopian. And Utopian is actually, let me go back, is a service that pays people for their open source contributions. So, you know, open source is probably one of the biggest social networks out there. It started a long time ago, but it really kind of proved the concept that of what human beings could do when they combine their creativity. So there's dSound as well, which is kind of like if you look here, it's kind of like SoundCloud. And there's a lot of other tools on steamtools.com. There's a lot of applications on there. You can build your own applications. It's a really great platform. So that's one of the applications that I really like about blockchain. Non-financial, it's in the social media space. And I think the Steemit blockchain has a lot of other advantages too. So it's censorship resistant. Like I said, there's no intermediaries or middlemen. So it's the content creators who are getting the money here. It's not, you know, companies taking this money and, you know, funneling it to their investors and their stakeholders. And so now that Steemit is done, I want to talk about another thing that's kind of near and dear to a lot of our hearts, which is net neutrality and internet access.
Yeah.
So let's start with the problem. So net neutrality, a lot of people try to define this in a lot of ways, but I'm going to use this definition. It's basically the principle that service providers should enable access to all content and applications regardless of source without favoring or blocking particular websites. So a developer basically put it to me like this, to give me an example. That this concept is to stop people from potentially, say, taking Hulu and making it really fast and slowing down Netflix to drive Netflix out of business, which is something that a company would do, say, if they owned Hulu and customers preferred Netflix. And so really the root issue here is that big ISPs are our only choice. And in a lot of areas, you really only have a choice of one or two providers. So the blockchain, I think, provides a solution. And that solution, Oakland's own, Althea. So we hosted Althea about a month ago actually at our meetup. And actually Dev here works on their platform, designing their mobile apps and their web applications. And Althea is designed to bring competition into the broadband market by enabling people to set up their own mesh network. So in a second I'll give you a demo and show you exactly what that's like. But from the Althea website, they talk about how it's more than a hotspot. A mesh network enables people to start their own ISPs. It enables people to communicate in a peer-to-peer way. And they bill it as a cure to ISP monopolies. And in a lot of places, especially as you get out of the cities and you go into rural areas, they don't even have internet access. They don't have broadband access. They don't have the access that we have, that we're so afforded here. And Althea has a kind of a cure for that. I believe they actually have a test network in Oregon that's on the ground now, that's operating. Like I said, they operate out of Oakland, out of West Oakland, out of the pseudo room. And it has some other advantages, like that it's private and neutral by default. So even though you're a mesh network and you're communicating through other people's connections, you're using a VPN service. So your traffic is private. Other people can't snoop on your traffic. So I actually want to do a little demo here of the Althea network. And so this is the demo of the Althea network, and I'm going to narrate this and kind of explain how the platform works. I don't want to get too technical tonight. I kind of want to keep the beer flowing, but I'll do a quick overview of what's so special about this and how the blockchain interoperates with this, and why this is an interesting and special application of blockchain. So to start, these, you can't even see it. Somebody could have told me.
Pretty bouncy.
Can't see
Where are we at?
They're
There we go.
They're in the high ceilings down
There
there.
we go. Let's get it big here.
So tiny.
Boom, there we go.
Yay.
All right. So to start here, the development platform that they've been starting with is done on Raspberry Pis, so really cheap hardware. And the Althea software is designed to run on commodity hardware so that it's cheap for everybody to purchase. It doesn't require a substantial upfront investment. And let me describe what these 4 boxes are. So imagine this is the client. This is your home computer. And this one over here is the gateway. So this is the computer with the direct connection to the internet. And these 2 nodes here are the intermediary nodes. They basically route traffic from your computer all the way to the internet. And in this case, they're routing traffic over the table, but in a real life situation, this would be routing traffic, say, across the city or to the nearest internet connection. And the way Althea works is it uses the Ethereum blockchain to do micropayments between the nodes. So the intermediary nodes here, which are like ISPs, have to compete for your traffic. And they can change their prices. And the routing protocol that Althea uses is called Babel. And normally what it does is it routes traffic depending on what the best route is, what the fastest route is, or what the least, the route with the least latency is. But they've added a extension to it that also accommodates for price. So it makes these 2 ISPs compete over your traffic by not only the quality of the network, but also the price. So yeah, what's going on now is he's going to raise the price on this network node right here. And as you see, there's traffic going through here. This is telling you how much traffic is going through here per second. And when he raises the price, you'll see that the traffic automatically redirects to the cheaper route. And this keeps the ISPs in competition. So you see all the traffic went to this node, and that node is at 0 kilobytes, so no traffic is going there.
So what stops the nodes from price setting?
What do you mean price setting?
Colluding.
Colluding.
That's actually an interesting thing I've been working with them on. There's some, so we've been getting into some deep protocol level stuff, some like algorithmic game theory, in order to like say stop nodes from doing like the Uber or the Amazon thing where you kind of undercut everybody until everybody else is out of business and then you raise your prices. That's actually something we're working on. It's a really technical conversation. I'd love to have it with you, and I'm going to be here till 9, so let's go ahead and do it. But actually right now, he's noting that the network actually routes around damage as well. So say one of your ISPs goes out, this will automatically switch to the working connection, which is kind of a problem that we have here. I'm from Minnesota, where we have a lot of tornadoes and storms, and so it's not unusual for your internet to go out. And this kind of solves that problem as well. And then, because the hardware is so cheap and anyone can set up an ISP, a new competitor comes in. And so it's going to take a second to boot here. But ultimately, when this new competitor comes in, and this is no longer the only game in town, which remember, we raised the prices on this one, right? So it's charging an arm and a leg. The traffic will automatically route through that cheaper route. And this is all powered by, like I said, the Ethereum blockchain. It's powered by the Lightning Network and payment channels. These are all like blockchain technologies. I don't want to do too much jargon here, but this is something that you can look forward to in the future, because blockchain is going to be integrated into internet service providers, and here we go. So that one's at 105 cents per gigabyte. This one's at I think 270, and you can see the traffic just died here and automatically went to that other route. All right. So I am going to shut that one down. Do you have questions?
Just a quick question. So how much of that does he actually get paid to the gateway, to the one that is providing the actual internet?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so each hop is actually paid.
But the ones that decide the prices are the first hop, or each hop has its own pricing?
Everybody who carries the traffic is actually going to get a little payment. So these are actually like micro payments. So each one can set
the price is the node, or the gateway has its fixed price as well?
No, they can all change prices. In this demo right here, just for simplicity, we're only working with the intermediary nodes. But in theory, the gateways could change prices as well, and the Babel routing protocol will actually change to a different gateway as well, just like it does for the intermediary nodes.
How do you mitigate the 51% attack in this? Or like pools who will decide on the price?
Yeah. So we'll talk about that after. That's a little bit more technical than I want to get with this talk. But yeah, good question. All right. So I do recommend, like all the things I'm going to cover here, I just want to cover enough details so you can go home and Google it.
Is the vision that the clients most clients will be intermediary? I'm trying to make sense.
No, actually, the vision is that, you're never going to get rid of some of the like larger intermediary nodes. So somebody decides that they want to buy a T1 and they have a little bit more money, so they want to buy a little bit more hardware and they're able to broadcast their signal. Like that's always going to happen. And ideally, the intermediary nodes would be like Comcast and Google, competing against each other.
So what's the final node called? I thought that
this is the gateway. So the gateway has the direct connection to the internet. So this is probably like these are, to get technical, these are probably like level 3 providers, and this is probably like level 1 or 2. All right, so, and actually I said you guys should Google that. You should probably use DuckDuckGo. And if you don't know what DuckDuckGo is, you can Google that.
DuckDuckGo?
So what's stopping a company from being a node provider itself and just cutting Amazon out, or cutting a Google or the ISP out of it?
What do you mean?
Well, you have. So if I am hosting a node,
Yeah.
but I'm also a company that hosts a website. Does that mean you can just hit my node and you don't have to go through the gateway?
Oh, like a CDN kind of thing?
Right.
That's actually an interesting question. I haven't thought of that. Yeah, I can actually connect you with the Althea guys.
Yeah,
You'll
we'll
probably
talk.
talk to them about that. Yeah.
Because I could definitely see, especially if net neutrality does not get repealed like we all hope it does.
So there are actually a
that
couple
companies
articles.
would do that because then you're not inhibited.
So there's actually a couple articles that Jahan, the lead developer who works here in Oakland, he's written about net neutrality and Althea and how that works.
Okay.
It's on their blog. I think it's a Medium blog actually. But
We'll check.
so for the last one, I kind of want to get into something that drew a lot of news this year and really interested me. So it's about Catalonia independence and how they use IPFS. So a little history. Actually, my great grandfather came from this area almost 100 years ago. But Catalonia is this area of northern Spain that has its own language, has its own culture, and has been on and off with independence movements for about the last 150 years or so. And I won't go into the violence in the news or the pictures or detail all this history. So to make a long story short, on September 6th of this year, the Catalonian Parliament called for an independence referendum. And the Spanish government cracked down on that with internet censorship. So they started removing websites from the internet. They started blocking the top-level domain. So top-level domain in the US, it's .com, and in Catalonia, it's .cat. So they blocked any website that had mention of the referendum. And being from Oakland, this place has a lot of civil rights history, a lot of history around voter suppression and trying to end that. Actually, right down the street, you can walk there. The Black Panthers were founded, and so this is kind of an issue that definitely drew my attention. I'm leading with it last because it's really near and dear to my heart. But so yeah. So unfortunately, we've seen this thing happen before, where the government shuts down the internet to stop people from communicating, to stop the protests, to basically stop the information from getting out to the rest of the world. It happened with the Arab Spring in Egypt in 2012. It happened in Syria. It's happened in a lot of countries around the world. This year, this happened in April of 2017. The Turkish government decided that they were going to block Wikipedia because there was an article about their state sponsoring terrorism. So that's the problem. But this time, the Catalonian government had a solution. And this is the picture of their referendum website. So this is the site. If you were in Catalonia and you wanted to know where your voting place was, this is the site you went to. And this was the first website that the Spanish chose to block. And they were able to do that because the way the internet works today is everybody gets their website from a centralized server. So if these are all of us with our internet connections, and this is the centralized server, this is how you connect to the internet and retrieve web pages today. So when the Spanish government cut the tie to the internet backbone, or they started blacklisting websites, the internet there turned into this. So people were left without internet service, they were left without a way to communicate. But a mesh network system, which actually Catalonia has one of the largest community-run networks in the world, actually the largest, I believe. There's 50,000 nodes at this point. So a peer-to-peer distributed community network like that would make the internet like this. So instead of having to go to a centralized server to get that website, you could get it from anyone who had accessed that website recently.
Decentralized?
Decentralized, yeah. Blockchain.
Yeah.
So blockchain is a peer-to-peer technology, and the peer-to-peer distributed part of that takes care of distribution. And the way that Catalonia used blockchain made it nearly impossible to block that content, that voting website, because it was replicated around that community network anytime someone surfed to that page. And the way this works, let me get a little technical here, and why this is a little bit different from how the internet works today. Because today, when you call to a website, to a server to retrieve a website, you're calling to an IP address. An IP address now is a location, right? So in IPFS, this underlying technology, this technology that actually is going to change the way the web works. It already powers, like the first example I gave you, Steemit, DTube, which I'm probably on right now again. But this is different because it uses a hash of the content. And a hash is basically a signature of the website. So that signature, when you're transporting across the internet, if someone were to modify that, it would actually change the signature. And so when you're reaching out across the internet, you're actually not reaching to a location, which is this IP address here. You're reaching out specifically for that hash, that signature. So you can be sure that the content you get back is exactly what you asked for. And that's called content addressing. And so basically that solves all the issues that people have with the government tampering with the information coming over the lines, like say they do in certain countries, which I won't name, or blocking things with firewalls. This peer-to-peer technology is really going to change the way the web works. It's really going to allow us to communicate peer-to-peer instead of having to rely on central authorities. So actually, guys, that's about it. Do you guys have any?